Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests and dear colleagues, my name is Raimundas Tuminauskas, but I am a mere presenter here. So I will be talking about the vision of the GÉANT network as far as it can be conceived now. And it's not done by me. The credit for this material goes to the GÉANT operations team, the former leader Mark Johnston and Guy Roberts, Mian Usman, Toby Rodwell, and many others who contributed to this presentation. What I'm going to do, I will do my revelations in brief. What is GÉANT to me and where I come from in GÉANT. And I will dive into a little bit more specific network specifics to outline the current situation, the current thinking, and then talk a little bit more about the principles that I hope would shape the future of GÉANT network. So what is GÉANT? This is an official definition, but working in GÉANT from 2000, I think I developed my own understanding what is GÉANT. And GÉANT is many different things depending on the context. But most and foremost, GÉANT is a collaboration. It's a collaboration spanning from the laboratory to the pan-European scale and to the international scale. So that's the factor that really differentiates GÉANT from the commercial initiatives, where collaboration between rivals, commercial rivals, is not very likely. Now, GÉANT partners, they are not rivals in this sense. They may be competing on the better networks and the better support for the users, but they are not competing amongst themselves in order to get each other businesses. So from this formal standpoint, GÉANT is an association with all the European national research and education networks present, and governing, ultimately, the GÉANT in all of its aspects. I hope that from the perspective of European Commission, GÉANT is an effective vehicle to produce maximum impact with the European-funded infrastructure projects, like EAP Connect, like GÉANT projects, like Africa Connect, up to university, and other many projects that GÉANT is coordinating. From the technical standpoint, GÉANT is a network spanning Europe and on a player on a global scale. And above the net, GÉANT is also a set and a manager of a set of services that are provided across the community. And last but not least, GÉANT is a community of the networkers who make networks, their development, a subject of their lives, with the emphasis on the research and educational network, but also wider. Sorry. So this is a representation of the GÉANT membership, all Europe and beyond, from west to east. And this is the ultimate governance body for GÉANT, that to operate GÉANT is the usual structure of the governance, the board, and I am a member of the board is elected, and then various committees, and then Eric and all the teams in two offices do one thing that is most important: do the balance of interest on behalf of the community, so that the network and the project and all the aspects of GÉANT collaboration operate smoothly and seamlessly. One of these is collaboration and work with scientific infrastructures and scientific fields ranging from social sciences and arts to informatics and networking as a science itself, which is sometimes gets forgotten because somehow network is just works. Where you do the science on the network, and that could be done also on the research and education networks. Of course, life sciences, high energy physics, and so on. I will not dwell too much on this slide. GÉANT is one of the leaders on a global scale. So I will go into the current situation more deeply. So that is GÉANT on a different level. It's an IP MPLS network topology of GÉANT. And all you see is full rainbow of colors here, which means many different technologies, many different speeds and different links. So what it does, it makes this network really large. And you know, the larger the ship, the more problematic is to turn it. And so this has become, to a certain extent, very large and very complex networking environment that has to run smoothly, that has to respond to the requirements of the scientific community that are not that are advancing in quite a substantial pace with all the services that they currently operate and beyond to serve not only the current research processes but also the research processes that would emerge in upcoming years. So the current GÉANT network infrastructure is based on two layers, the optical layer, the yellow one, and the packet layer, the green one. Both layers are single vendor entities. So they are managed by the single vendor proprietary management system. And they are interconnected, they are not seamlessly interconnected, they are not integrated, they are interconnected with the service level interconnection. So there are few points that this system was established a few years ago, and at that time the system was essential to provide the 500 gigabit connectivity across the GÉANT backbone. I'm sorry, but today the world has changed substantially in a sense that the services, the network services are required spanning all the network layers, not just on IP, on a packet layer, not just on the optical layer. That has to be integrated, monitored, and developed further. So this means that current implementation of these services requires a lot of protocols and a lot of tweaking of the particular protocols for the particular service, even for the simplest managerial management tasks like event management, inventory, ticketing. It has to be done to interact with the proprietary NMS systems. And it's also a high cost of interconnection. There is no integration of these two systems, so there has to be connection on the service level. And it implies that the development path is really very costly. Although the development is required by the simplest traffic estimation, which is in the range of 15 to 20% annual growth. While traffic growth is 15 to 20% annually, the cost has to decline because everybody now is very focused on not increasing the cost, let's put it that way. So how to achieve this? First of all, we the GÉANT operations team started to think and reconsider what what the prerequisites are and what the current situation is with the network development. So, the good thing is that there are few factors that may influence the reconsideration of the whole network. Expiration of the support contracts and the fiber lease contracts. That forces essentially reconsideration, and also the development of the market. Introducing the data center devices and integrated optics and third-party optics and opening up of the optical layer. So it comes to the notion of disaggregation, right? It's an industry trend led by, I heard this abbreviation a couple of weeks ago in the Czech Republic. It says FANG, right? FANG, like a Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. And the big content providers drive this trend towards the opening, towards the introductory of the data center devices into the wide area networks, providing much more cost efficient and space efficient and efficient hardware, and cheaper, of course, hardware. It's a separation software from hardware. That has been an initiative started in Stanford University in the US a few years ago already with the software-defined networks. And what software-defined networks, it's a huge discussion what software-defined networks are, what they aren't, but what they did, they opened that Pandora box so that the software is no longer bound to the networking hardware that you buy. So you could buy the hardware based on a particular chipsets and characteristics, and you can buy the third-party software or develop or install open source software or develop your own software. That contributes to the multi-vendor integration, where you can mix and match different components from the different vendors, and that provides for this openness of the hardware and software, where you can develop your own programs, your own software, and that is a change of paradigm in a certain sense in GÉANT itself, because GÉANT was usually good at operating the networks. Now, in order to operate the networks in this environment, it's also required to have software development capabilities. So, yeah, this is what it is now, and this is what's going to be, so that the networks themselves could be constructed from the variety of vendors, parts of the infrastructure, and whatnot, and the integration on the open interfaces and protocols lets to develop the services on a level that is above the network level, even for the network services and for the network functions. Virtualization allows to build the services on a virtual level, and on top of that, the unified operation support systems would allow the seamless monitoring of the services across the multiple domains. So now there are 5 principles for the future network construction of GÉANT that would allow GÉANT as a network to meet the required flexibility and agility for the modern research processes. First of all, federate infrastructure where possible and feasible. There are a lot of NRN-based infrastructure in Europe. So opening of the networks and opening of the open networks would allow integration of this infrastructure into the GÉANT pan-European network, and also will allow much more flexible use of the integrated of this federated infrastructure by GÉANT and also by NRNs. So currently there was a study done last spring on the available layer 1 infrastructure, and the conclusion of this study is that it would be currently it would be a little bit complex to do the full spectrum sharing, but with the integrated optics devices, it would be possible to increase dramatically the meshing and the bandwidth of IP and PLS level of GÉANT using the NRN infrastructure. That would reduce the cost of itself of the network, and it will provide more effective use of the existing dark fiber. Second principle: open up the optical lines. So the optical layer now is closed up to now. Let's say now implemented optical layer is mostly closed, so that the transponders and the photonics are of the same vendor, managed by the same management system, and so all the connections to that layer are quite costly. Now the ultimate fully disaggregated optical layer is something that could be really mix and match, to buy the amplifiers from one vendor, to buy the multiplexers from another vendor, dispersion compensators, the wave switches, and different things from different vendors, and then unify that with the open protocols so that they could be managed centrally. And that future is not there yet. But what is there already is something that is at least partially open, where the optical photonics, it's still more feasible and more convenient to have that produced by the single vendor, so that all the bits and pieces fit together, but the transponders are not. And the optical interfaces, the integration of the optical interfaces into the data center devices, it has made this, and also the third-party optical interface modules for legacy routers and legacy equipment has made this transponder part absolutely unnecessary, in a sense. So the partial open optical line system would be, but it would be also required not only by GÉANT to implement this, but also NRNs to support this kind of optical, partially open optical line. Next, use the packet optical integrated hardware. Then you can see that these two boxes provide mostly similar capacity, except that the smaller one doesn't have the ETSI standards for telecoms and doesn't have that too much resiliency and all the redundancy. But essentially, it is the cost is different on a scale of these two devices. So, I mean, 10 to 20 times cheaper. Yeah, 2 minutes, I know. So, GÉANT will continue to use the current deployment of the optical layer, but where the new development starts, it would be, hopefully it would be the new boxes, which are much more cost effective and provide much more flexibility, because it's hard to move around this size of equipment. The next is evolution of the management system, so that all the network services, all the network elements are monitored on the multi-domain basis, regardless of what they are made of and which level they present in a networking hierarchy. This would provide the seamless integration with the research processes, with the other infrastructure and also with the other infrastructures that are data-driven, like EUDAT, like EGI, like PRAISE, so that essentially data and network could be combined together to create a seamless service. And those services will be created they will not be created in the network itself, they will be created in the software. Like a connectivity, transport connectivity service, like a software-defined distributed exchange, allowing connections and traffic interchange between NRNs and between other connected entities within GÉANT, and the ones that's spanning from campus to the global level. So that's what we are going to achieve with this: the flexibility, the cost effectiveness, the federated infrastructure, and the integration with all, hopefully with the research processes and all the data-driven infrastructures.